Okay, here we are in front of the bed that I built last May. So this is 1 year old, and I was going to have a close-up of just what actually it has turned into. And we'll just pull out a big chunk here that used to all be garbage or waste product. And you can see how it's just all turned into dirt and soil. And there are our worm friends everywhere, squiggling. And look at that, it's just chock full of worms. And there are the springtails. That looks like a millipede. And it's still crumbling, it's still breaking down just a little bit, but really rich and healthy. So you can see that I've sprinkled some seeds on here. There's different ways to plant those materials. But you can see how well the germination is going in this 1 year old lasagna garden. Okay, well, this is some materials that I've amassed for our lasagna garden. We've got dried leaves that I saved up from the fall. We've got some broken down leaves that I was composting that are about a little more than half a year old. We've got just some dried paper. And then these will be our brown materials. And then we've got our coffee grounds, some food waste buckets. We've just got some garden weeds. And then I did, unfortunately, I had a lot of charred bolts. And so we'll use some of this as a green layer, chopped up, and also some as our twiggy layer. And we've got twigs down here, and then our cardboard to mulch with. This is our area that we're gonna make our lasagna garden. We're just gonna kind of come out from our current landscaping. Ultimately, this is gonna be a cut flower garden. It gets some, probably 6 to 8 hours of sunlight. Okay, one thing about getting our grass weed barrier layer going, this is a time when you do want to have some water. It's been pretty wet, so I'm not going to spend too much time getting the ground wet. We have had some rain. But it is really important to make sure that your cardboard is wet, because we're ultimately going to want this to break down. Okay, some of my cardboard has some cutouts, and you can see some open spaces cutting through. So I'm going to go with another layer and just make sure that everything is overlapped so no grass can grow through. Okay, we've got our weed barrier down. It's all overlapped. It's nice and wet. And now we're going to put on our stick layer, which is good for aeration. It's also a good time just to kind of clean up around your yard and put all those sticks to good use. So we're just going to kind of scatter these about. And this bag is all torn up, so we'll put that to good use. And now we're all set with that layer. Okay, we're going to do a layer of greens now. I went a little thin on my stick layer just because these are not twiggy, but they're kind of big and probably will be good for aeration. So we're just going to scatter these about. Okay, so there's our green layer. Now you know the routine. We've got our green layer, so what's going to come next will be our browns. I've got some dried leaves. It's always good to save these if you can. And then I've got some of this dried paper and eggshell cartons and cardboard. And then we're going to get that wet down. Everything we want to be wet, because that will speed up the decomposition. Okay, well, we are ready now for a green layer. And I know this is the color brown, but it's coffee and it's typically a wet material and it's full of nitrogen. So we're going to pour these on. And then we're going to continue with a little bit of food waste. These could go in, but they're going to be much quicker if we chop them up. So we're just going to grab our chop shovel and give them a quick chop. Okay, well, we're going to continue our green layer with our chopped materials. And our food scraps. And there's a couple that probably should be chopped up to speed things along. And then I've got some garden weeds. And there's our green layer. Okay, well, we're going to do our final brown layer. So we've got green, brown, green, brown. You can keep going as many layers as you'd like. This one's coming up to about 12 inches. You could probably go all the way up to 24 inches. It's going to sink back down at the end of the, once it's cured. So we're going to get our browns on here. It is important when you're building your lasagna garden to make sure it's nice and drenched with water. We want to keep the cardboard moist and wet so it will break down over time, along with all the other ingredients we put in. Okay, so I'm going to actually add about 2 gallons of my nice worm compost castings, and that will fertilize this whole bed. And we'll put that in underneath where we're going to put our compost mulch layer on top. Okay, well, now we're getting ready to cover our lasagna garden. I harvested some compost here, and you can see if we come in here, it's still breaking down. We've got some nice big fat worms in there. So these are all going to be really great to plant in and also to help break down. We'll probably need about 2 wheelbarrow loads to cover this. This is about a 4-foot by 10-foot bed. Okay, well, we just built our lasagna garden probably in about 50 minutes, and we are ready for some beautiful flowers to be coming in. You could be doing vegetables, fruits, You could do herbs. There's so many different things you can do in this model. Over time, this will all decompose in a beautiful, rich soil. Hey, Compost and Pete here. It's just the beginning of October, and you can see our nice fall garden that we've got growing in this lasagna garden bed we built this spring. Soil is rich and full of nutrients and life, and so we're excited with how it turned out.